Welcome to SVG-TV News for Tuesday, June 2nd, 2015. I am Jennifer Richardson with the details. This country's Prime Minister today presented data reflecting that his administration is currently providing more jobs annually than the 500 targets being proposed by the leader of the opposition, Annie Eustace, if his party wins government at the next polls. At a media conference today, Prime Minister Gonsalves read from the 2001 Housing and Population Census, which highlights that there was a total of 1,529 new employment for the 11-year period between 1991 through 2001. Dr. Gonsalves says this figure is representative of 139 persons gaining employment on average per year. Additionally, Prime Minister Gonsalves explains that according to the 2012 census, for the 12-year period from 2001 to 2012, there has been an increase of 6,300 new jobs, representative of 525 persons being employed each year since he took office.
So, Annie Eustace wants to employ as his goal roughly the same number that we are already employing a year on an average. In 1991, almost 1/5 of the labor force was unemployed. In 2001, almost 1/5 of the labor force was unemployed. In 2012, almost 1/5. Even though the actual numbers in between 2001 and 2012 increased by over 6,000, is because of the increase in the population, but more importantly, the alterations internally in the population, where more persons over 60 years of age are in the labor force and employed.
Prime Minister Gonsalves contends that the main lesson from the data is that St. Vincent and the Grenadines historically has a low absorptive capacity for labor.
That's the conclusion I want to draw from the whole time series data. And that is why I say to the people of this country, you cannot cross this developmental chasm in baby steps. If you seek to cross the chasm in baby steps, CHASM, you will fall in the widening gorge, below in the widening gorge. And we have to break the bottlenecks to get the development, which is what this government has been doing, while at the same time having targeted strategic initiatives on an ongoing basis to hold people together in jobs and so forth and support system to go forward. What are the important strategic issues for the medium to longer term? Education.
With Vincentians now having the opportunity to travel to all 26 Schengen countries visa-free, government is said to be making moves to discuss further with Canadian authorities a possible reconsideration of the visa restrictions imposed on Vincentian passport holders. Prime Minister Dr. Ralph Gonsalves today told the media that while in Panama recently for the Summit of the Americas, he sat and spoke with Canadian Prime Minister Stephen Harper for approximately 2 hours. He explains that during such time he indicated to Prime Minister Harper that there was no reason why SVG should have lost the visa-free entry into Canada, and following the Schengen visa waiver, PM Gonsalves was again going to bring the matter back up for reconsideration.
The point is that he said to me, he said, but do you have some difficulties with economic citizenship? I said, no, you're confusing me and another country. And in the region, I mentioned the country to him, but I wouldn't mention that country, his name here. I said, no, this is the thing. I said, you could confuse saints easily. This one is St. Vincent and the Grenadines, not Saint something else. And I've spoken to our foreign minister here, Camilo, for us to get going on that. And I myself would write Prime Minister Harper, and he will raise it at this foreign minister level too. I'm talking about Camilo. Look, when when countries like these make these decisions, they don't change them very easily. But, you know, I had warned people repeatedly, so did Sir Louis Straker, that you mustn't abuse this refugees arrangement, otherwise it will come back to haunt you. I repeatedly said it, because I saw what is likely to have taken place, and people must listen to leaders who speak honestly and frankly to them.
Over 40 new job opportunities will be made open to locals when telecommunications company Digicel commences operation of a call center here in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. At a media conference on Friday, Minister of Foreign Affairs, Trade and Technology Camilo Gonçalves explained that he was recently informed by the Digicel officials that the call center will be opened in the second or third quarter of this year. Minister Gonçalves added that from the outset, the center is expected to employ some 50 persons, with 40 to 45 being locals.
And it will have a telesales focus in its initial operations. They've shared with me the floor plan of the facility, and they're going to have a shift system. It's going to be open for it's going to have shifts. I'm not sure if it's 24 hours or if it's, but certainly more than the regular sort of 8 to 4 hours. And they've told me about the location. They've given me a sense of the type of training that they're going to give local employees, the type of salary range they're thinking about and the like, but I don't want to go too far into it, except to say that the call center which we discussed is on its way. It's significantly advanced, and this is another example of the type of foreign direct investment that we're trying to attract to St. Vincent and the Grenadines, particularly foreign direct investment in the technology space.
A new Democratic Party administration will be pushing ahead to implement a social, spiritual, and redemption charter to help renew the country. Speaking at the town hall meeting in Brooklyn, New York on Sunday, opposition leader Alan Eustace, in outlining some of his plans for this country, says that the charter, which was presented in 2003, is continually sidelined to be debated in Parliament. Eustace says once in government, the charter will become a priority.
We have set up, and carried to Parliament since 2003, a social, spiritual, and redemption charter, which is aimed of guiding our people in certain areas. We could never get it debated in the Parliament. There's also a reason why it could not be debated. From 2003 till now. But we'll pass it when we get there. Because we believe that has a major role to play in how we assist in transforming our society, including our young people, in terms of specific values. Thou shalt not steal.
In further outlining his plans to boost this country's economy, Eustace says SVG's consulates will have a more focused approach to business and trade instead of just diplomatic undertakings.
We don't want, I'm not interested in any mission if its own responsibility is to deal with consular affairs. Missions must bring business to St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and therefore must be staffed accordingly. We have young men and women in public service in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, trained in trade and investment, who should be out here working, not in St. Vincent, trying to attract business in St. Vincent and provide for some of our people who want to send goods up here to service. It's a two-way trade you're looking at. And those are of economic benefit to St. Vincent and the Grenadines. So while passports and so on are critical, I want us to ensure, and we will do that, that our mission structure is transformed.
Vincentians are being encouraged to be more introspective when it comes to their support of politicians who engage in name-calling and mudslinging during political campaigns. This advice comes from Director of Marion House, Jeannie Olivier, who was a panelist on Sunday's Hit Stock program. Olivier encouraged Vincentians to think about the important issues in societies that affect them and to steer the politicians towards addressing these issues and not to become sidetracked.
But we ask ourselves, why is it that our politicians seek office? And why do we, as electorate, elect them? Do they really have our interests and the issues within the Vincentian society at heart? Do they have the capacity requested of elected representatives? And really, how many of us are honest with the politicians and tell them frankly what we think of their presentations and of their Indian news and so on? Do we offer them suggestions that will help them to lift their name and to lift the issues that are debated on a local and a national level? And how much do we as electorate understand the issues and share them? But I just like to, in light of the topic, say that since there's a code of ethics, probably I go back where I started to say that we need to look at it, revise it, update it, institutionalize it, and ensure that there is participation in terms of its revision from civil society, and it is not one-tracked. It should be an ongoing mechanism.
Vicar General of the Roman Catholic Church, Monsignor Michael Stewart, was also a panelist on the program, appealed to the religious community to be more vocal in condemning what he said are the unfortunate instances where unbecoming statements are being made by political leaders, adding that the various religious groups have a role to play in maintaining the code of conduct.
In our society, we are developing dangerous habits, and one of them is the whole rhetoric of naming and shaming, etc. I agree with Ronnie that certain things mean certain things in particular contexts. If we are to achieve much in any society, if we're to achieve the good over an election period, I would say working for the common good is an important, very important category. I also believe that the Christian Council could do more for the society, but I think that the challenge is beyond the Christian Council. The challenge must be a challenge for the entire Christian populace of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, where all of us get on board and address issues in a prophetic way. When we speak out against issues, it must be that we're exercising our prophetic role.
As SVG observes Nutrition Awareness Week under the theme Healthy Eating and Living Less Salt, Healthier Life, Minister of Health, Wellness and the Environment Clayton Bergen is advising Vincentians about the positive effects of good eating habits, as well as the need to have an active lifestyle. In his address to mark the commencement of the week of activities, the Health Minister said that public education on the consumption of salt will be on the ministry's agenda this week, adding that hypertension is a non-communicable disease that holds great cost to the country and that it is important to tackle this disease through public sensitization.
This week has been scheduled for June the 1st to the 7th, 2015 to coincide with Caribbean Nutrition Day, which is celebrated annually on June the 1st. The objectives for Nutrition Awareness Week 2015 are to focus attention on the health risk of excess dietary intake of salt and sodium, to educate adults and children on the common food sources of excess salt and sodium, to empower adults and children with information on several ways to reduce dietary intake of excess salt and sodium and reduce their risk of specific non-communicable diseases or NCDs, and to promote National Dietary Guideline number 6, which I stated, when cooking, use less salt and salted seasonings, eat less salted foods and drink.
Bergen further urged Vincentians that as they participate in the week of activities, to consider food preparation and consumption as well as food storage.
Activities for the upcoming week include the prayers for the nutritional health of the nation offered by churches, radio address, health words for the week, focusing on the theme and providing the basis for a week-long children's radio quiz competition on NBC Radio. Open day at health centers during Open day at health centers during the week. Let's all seminars for the Royal St. Vincent Grenadines Police Force and Rotary and the Ministry of Education. National Secondary Schools Nutrition Quiz Competition on Thursday the 4th June. A nutrition mini fair under the SVG Post Gallery on Friday the 5th June. Today I declare Nutrition Awareness Week 2015 officially open and congratulate the Nutrition Unit, the Health Promotion Unit, Community Nursing Service, MCD Focal Point, and all collaborating partners, particularly the Ministry of Education and the Rotary Club.
According to Minister Bergen in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, hypertension is becoming one of the most prominent non-communicable diseases and has the potential to cause urgent public health problems. He said, according to present statistics, children are becoming more susceptible to the disease, and therefore his ministry is working to address this matter through collaboration with the Ministry of Education as well as various other entities.
Hypertension is considered a major risk for cardiovascular disease, especially heart attack and stroke. Thus, the burden of morbidity and mortality from hypertension and other related non-communicable diseases is currently one of the most urgent public health problems globally. Although NCDs disproportionately affect adults, they and their risk factors are now being detected more frequently in pediatric populations. Diet-related NCDs are chronic and take years and decades to manifest. Thus, delaying the onset of these diseases could improve lives and result in substantial cost savings.
A disaster simulation exercise took place last Friday at the Calico Playing Field to assess the readiness of volunteers and persons involved in the disaster management here. As we hear in this report from Sharon Garway, this comes in time for the hurricane season, which began yesterday, Monday, June 1st, and will run until November 30th.
From broken bones to lacerations to punctuated bodies, the scene appeared real as volunteers of the St. Vincent and the Grenadines Red Cross and persons associated with the disaster management team rushed to help persons in need of medical aid. This was the practicum aspect of a workshop held here last Thursday and Friday, where personnel were given tools on how to handle catastrophic circumstances, particularly in times of disasters. Director General of the St. Vincent and the Grenadines Red Cross Society, Bernard Marksman, says the exercise aims to get persons ready for the real scenarios.
We do have quite a few volunteers here, and this morning's exercise, the police, they were immaculate in that they didn't know what the scenario was. All they heard was the siren, and they can be highly complimented for their quick reaction. They were at a meeting, I understand, and they heard the siren, they came down and they saw a situation on the playing field and they reacted.
National Emergency Management Organization NEMO Director Howie Prince says besides the volunteers, a number of institutions, including the police and polyclinics, participated in the activity.
Generally speaking, I think that the simulation exercise was able to achieve many of the objectives that were set and certainly provide the opportunities that some of these players required to test their skills. I am therefore heartened and commend the Red Cross very highly for being involved and for staging this activity.
Sergeant Gart Deshong of the Special Patrol Unit says the exercise helped him implement his training and recommended more types of disaster simulation.
When you get there, Red Cross were already on the scene. Several persons were injured, some were also dead. There were casualties hooks in person's body, stick also in their chest, and bodies were found halved. I think this is a very important thing, and it's an exercise that I think should repeat very often.
The disaster simulation exercise also tested the contingency plan and will help the various agencies tweak and sharpen their skills to be ready for any eventuality. Sharon Garraway, SVG Television News.
The major accidents that have occurred here so far this year are a stark reminder of the urgent need to form stronger partnerships to address road carnage. That's according to Managing Director of Jarek St. Vincent Limited, Eric Kipps, who says that the effects of road fatalities are devastating and have the potential to cause major loss to society, which is why he thinks that insurance companies, vehicle associations, the police department, and other associations should come together to prevent further loss of lives.
Today we gather here at a time when the entire country and by extension the region is deeply saddened by the rising death toll on our roads. We are moved not only by the loss of lives, but equally by the devastating effect that road carnage has on the survivors of road crashes and the families of unfortunate victims. We have come better to appreciate its impact on those involved, directly and indirectly. No country has been spared. The effects of road crashes are devastating. The impact negatively on the livelihood of families and the socioeconomic fabric of the country. Families are robbed of their breadwinners, mothers lose their children. Those who remain behind are faced with a bleak future without sources of income. Surviving victims are faced with lifetime incapacities to fend for themselves due to severe injuries and disabilities. Research would indicate that millions is lost to the economy annually as a result of road crashes.
Kipps is also encouraging all stakeholders to redouble their efforts to promote road safety.
It is important that we thoroughly assess and fully comprehend the cost of road crashes to the economy. There is a problem, and we need to redouble our efforts in making road safety everyone's responsibility. I would like to see us emerge from this conference with concrete, doable, and effective plans. I am hoping that we can identify quick wins that would have major impact. The overall goal is to stabilize and reduce the forecast levels of road traffic fatalities. There's greater need for collaboration and partnerships with key stakeholders such as government departments and their entities, businesses, particularly those in the motor vehicle industry, public transport operators, driving schools, and road safety NGOs.
This year's Fisherman of the Year, Ray Anthony Clark, has been busted by the police for having in his possession approximately 25,000 grams of cannabis. He was reportedly intercepted with the controlled drug on June 1st, 2015 at the Fisheries Wharf. Appearing before Chief Magistrate Ration Brown Matthias today, Clark maintained his innocence. The police prosecution had no objection to his bail, which was allowed in the sum of $40,000 with one surety. He was also ordered to surrender his travel documents to the court owing to the fact that he is deemed a flight risk. The date for trial is July 20th, 2015. Keisha Straker, a 24-year-old domestic of Green Hill, will appear at the Serious Offences Court on July 20th, 2015 on a charge of possession of over 4,000 grams of cocaine with intent to supply to another. The arrest stemmed from a search warrant which was reportedly executed at her home on May 31st, 2015. Appearing at the Serious Offences Court this morning, the defendant maintained her innocence with regards to the charge. Chief Prosecutor Adolphus Delpesh had no objection to her bail, which was allowed in the sum of $140,000 with one surety. Straker was also ordered to surrender travel documents to the court and also to report to the Central Police Station on Mondays and Fridays between 6 a.m. and 6 p.m. until the date of the trial. The SVG Indian Heritage Foundation celebrated Indian Arrival Day on Sunday, May 31st, 2015, ahead of the actual day on Monday, June 1st. At the event, a call was made for persons of East Indian descent to embrace their roots and use their culture to help build SVG's heritage tourism product. We get more in this report from SVG-TV's Sharon Garraway.
154 years since the arrival of East Indians to this country as indentured servants. 260 East Indians took the 94-day journey from Chennai on the ship Travancore in 1861 and landed at Edinburgh Bay. And as time went by, 8 other ships docked on the island. Vice President of the SVG Indian Heritage Foundation, Dave Batiste, says strengthening the culture and enriching fellowship of the ethnic group is needed. He says the organization, which was established in 2005, has a clear mandate
to promote, propagate, and advance Indian culture, to bring together into a strong, vibrant body all descendants of Indian origin and their families in the country, and to form and promote fellowship and understanding among descendants of Indians and their families in the country and in the diaspora. There are a few more, but obviously in the interest of time, we'll go into them.
President Juno Bacchus says the organization is not instigating tribalism, but a means of understanding their history.
This is not a racial getting together of Indians to create any problem. This is the Vincentian community, many of us with some East Indian origin, who decided to preserve the culture, to recognize where we came from. And it is in recognizing where we came from we will be better able to chart the way forward for us as a people.
Credited for her work at ensuring the Indian Arrival Day was established on June 1st and Indian Heritage Day commemorated on October 7th, former Minister of Culture Rene Batiste called on those of East Indian descent to see the value of their cultural practices to this country's tourism.
Ensure that aspects of the history, a lot of it you have on Facebook now, on the Facebook page, but it's not sexy for the young people to go there unless you're a person of Indian heritage or somebody interested in history. But if you put it on exhibition, they'll be able to see the photographs of families, and that was a wonderful thing. I see families from Trinidad and other places in the Caribbean diaspora making comments and say, oh, my uncle was your grandmother, brother. So that link is there, and that is a natural link to be exploited for the tourism.
The need to build this country's heritage tourism through a vibrant East Indian culture was also reiterated by Minister of Culture, Ses Mackey.
So we want to make the Heritage Festival another festival in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, which we can use to invite persons to our shows, to build the heritage, the cultural tourism product here in St. Vincent and the Grenadines.
Featured speaker Sabir Nakuda, who represented the Barbados East Indian community, pleaded with Vincentians of East Indian descent to preserve their roots. He says this will not make them lose their Vincentian identity, but will enrich it.
That know who they are, and that is important. We are Barbadians. I am a Bajan Indian, although I came when I was 10 years old. I'm in Barbados for the last 57 years. Does not mean that I'm any less Bajan than the Bajan who was born in Barbados, but I know who I am, and my kids know who they are, and my grandchildren know who they are, and that can only be done. And I'm emphasizing again and again on language and religion.
Caribbean Regional Coordinator for the Global Organization of People of Indian Origin, GUPIO, Dr. Arnold Thomas, says the East Indian Heritage Foundation must be proud of their achievements, mainly the planning of the International Diaspora Conference in 2012, a first for a small island. At the event, greetings from the High Commission in Suriname and Trinidad and Tobago was delivered by Secretary of the Foundation, Cheryl Rodriguez. Next on the calendar for the SVG Indian Heritage Foundation is the hosting of a music festival in October at the Murray's Heights Hotel. Sharon Garraway, SVG Television News.